eligible to seek naturalization, move forward with naturalization. Don't wait. Don't think that, oh, I won't find myself in a deportable situation, or I won't find myself facing any criminal consequences. I always encourage my clients, the moment that you're eligible for citizenship, to naturalize. And the requirements for naturalization, it's somewhat simple. You have to be at least 18 years of age. You have to show that you've been a lawful permanent resident. If you obtained your status through marriage, or if you obtained your status through a family member, the requirements are a little different. But if you obtained your status of lawful permanent residency through marriage within 3 years of obtaining permanent residency, you're now eligible to seek naturalization. So the time period's different if you're married to a U.S. citizen or if you obtained your status through a family member. If you obtained your status through a family member, you have to wait 5 years before you can seek naturalization. Once you meet the requirements for permanent residency and you're now ready to move forward on naturalization, if you're traveling in and out of the country, those travels in and out of the country are really important, and immigration scrutinizes travel periods in and out of the country. So you want to make sure that if you're traveling in and out of the country, at least if you've obtained status through a marriage, that you've not remained outside of the country for more than 18 months if you're seeking naturalization through marriage. If you are seeking naturalization through a family member, you have to make sure that travels in and out of the country don't exceed 2.5 years. And it's an aggregate, it's a total of 5 years if you've obtained status through a family member. You have to make sure that your travels in those 5 years, you've not exceeded 2.5 years outside the country, because that would make you ineligible for naturalization. So when we've got the 18 years of age, you have the 3 or 5 years that you've had your lawful permanent resident status. You have the time period. You have not exceeded travels or departures in excess of the required time periods I just explained. And then you must just demonstrate that you have good moral character. Good moral character it's defined under the statute, but then there's that catch-all phrase. Any other character that would not be supportive or that would be deemed appropriate for the relief that you're seeking. So for naturalization, how people find themselves lacking the good moral character, it can be based on a shoplifting conviction. It could be based on too many traffic violations. It could be based on a drunk driving. It could be based on, it's somewhat subjective, depending on what immigration officer you have. If they see that maybe you've had been petitioned before by several other spouses, and those petitions, for whatever reasons, were withdrawn. So they look to immigration violations. So you want to make sure good moral character. When I tell people what's the best moral character, it's to make sure you have no immigration violations, you have no criminal history, pay your taxes. That's another reason not to give immigration, to deny your application. They're looking to see that taxes are being filed. If you're earning income, whether you're a consultant and you're not a W-2 wage earner, but a 1099 wage earner, that you're filing those taxes and you're filing those taxes correctly. They're looking to see dependents, if you are overstating your dependents. A lot of times I've had clients that list dependents outside the country, but they can't show any support for the funds that they sent. So if you actually have a dependent that's living abroad, make sure you keep receipts, make sure you keep any forms of payments to show that you are in fact, those people are in fact dependents, because that would be a way for immigration to deny a naturalization application for lack of good moral character. It usually stems with the taxes, with criminal history, and with immigration violations. Also, some of my clients that have had green cards for extended periods of time, they have the concern about the immigration, the test, the naturalization test. Well, there are waivers that are available if you are unable to fully speak, read, write, or understand the English language. There's a waiver that's available that you can go to a civil surgeon, an immigration doctor, that can assert that you have some language barrier or have some physical or mental impairment that would prevent you from passing the immigration exam. So don't let the test or the language, the English part of the test, discourage you from moving forward on naturalization. I think under this Trump administration, there's going to be, as I stated, higher deportations and less people immigrating and adjusting and becoming citizens. So if you have the opportunity now to seek citizenship and you don't have any deportable or inadmissible reason for immigration to deny your application, I would think it's in your best interest to move forward. Since you're already integrated into the United States, become a citizen. That allows you to vote. Just becoming a lawful permanent resident doesn't give you any other status other than to live and work here. You want to be a part of the system. You want to be able to vote so that we don't get another Trump administration. I think voting, you see now, is very important. And so, stressing what my other panelists have stressed, get adequate, competent immigration attorneys if you have an immigration need. If you need an attorney to handle a divorce, that's fine, get a divorce attorney, but don't get that divorce attorney to handle your immigration needs, because the consequences of bad representation could find you in deportation or in custody. And I think it's a good opportunity to maybe open the floor up for questions, because I think a lot of times you get a better appreciation of what it is attorneys can do as far as assisting in the process, helping you to navigate if it is in fact an immigration issue that you have. And I just want to thank you all once again and open the floor up for questions if you have
any. Thank you one more time for Attorney Rhodes. That's good. So now we're going to go to the Consul Generals. And, okay, yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Please, something important I wanted to add before we go into the full presentation. Well, so some issues have arisen given what Bimpe was presenting. If you are in the habit of paying fees for people back home, somebody call you, look boy, I beg pay $200 for my I-20 to this school, and you take your credit card and pay it, you've put yourself in trouble. You've hooked yourself. If this person comes to school and they disappear, they'll look for you. So you become a party to illegal activity. So note that when you're paying fees for people at home you don't know, or if they come, they're not in your control, please don't. 2, if you're doing affidavit of support, a lot of people are in the habit of, no boy, now I'm looking for somebody who do me affidavit of support. Or, no, but give me $1,000, I will do affidavit for you. Those practices, terrible. You're putting yourself in serious danger that you must stop. Buying tickets, as people say, you buy a ticket for people to come to the US. If you need to give them money, send money to them. Don't buy their ticket. Don't buy your ticket. Don't get yourself into a web of what you don't know. Wire transfers. If you're doing a wire transfer to somebody you know that's involved in 419 activity, that you know is doing illegal activities, don't connect yourself, because you're getting yourself involved in an immigration scam that you don't want to be part of. And the issues that we have encountered, many of us think going to a white lawyer is the answer. you are making a grave mistake. Grave mistake. Most of us don't patronize our Nigerian lawyers or African lawyers. When you ask them, no, boy, I went to a white lawyer or I went to a Jewish lawyer. 90% of the time, they all end up coming back to us. Because those people mess up their files. You're simply a number. There is no personal feeling into these people. When you go to them, you're just a file. And they treat as a file. If you call them, you pay too much. You cannot call. You cannot visit their office. And they end up going to Bigbe's office or coming to my office or going to Onyi's office. Now, I have a lawyer, but I can't talk to my lawyer. I hope you don't mind. We'll still talk to them. It is only important that you go to people who understand the rudiments of your problem. It is very, very crucial. Like I say, if matters come to me, I can handle it, I send it to her. I call her, I say, Roshanda, this one passed me. Since you have been part of the system, can you find out the way to resolve this? Don't be greedy. We're not greedy lawyers. We refer cases out to people that can do it. Now, the other areas that are causing problems, please, it's very important. A lot of people get visas when they're coming. And they go to the embassy, they say they're married. They know they were not married. They come here, they go marry and file. No, but what happened? I wasn't married, I just said I was married. I want you to know, whatever you say to immigration is your status, becomes your status. Yes. If you at the embassy told them you were married, you are married. At the port of entry, if you say you are married, you are married. So you must get divorced. You must divorce. And by divorcing, divorce in the competent court. Mark my words. Divorce in the competent court. If you go and divorce in the magistrate court for a case that is supposed to be high court, you have a problem. One more thing, people. She talked about good moral character. A lot of us have children. Our brain have become problems like some locals, where they don't pay child support, or they abandon their children. No, boy, but what happened? I have 4 children back home. Hey, now the woman don't live now. I don't know where she is. Are you paying child support? Child support how? No, I'm not paying child. Child support, non-payment of child support is evidence of bad moral character. And they prevent both your green card and citizenship. If you have children, men, pay child support. Keep records of it because they come to bite you when you don't think so. The word is enough for the wise.
Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Are you not enjoying this forum? Okay. So, right now I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Consul General of the Nigerian Consulate, Honorable Madubike, to just give us a few words, a 10-minute presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Let me make my few remarks. But first of all, I apologize on behalf of the Consul General, Kayode Lao, who incidentally actually is supposed to be here with me, but due to exigency of business, he had to travel out of Atlanta on a previously scheduled assignment. He sends his best wishes. And then having said that, I also want to thank leadership of ANOG, NIDO, NAPAC, and a whole lot of Nigerian leaders that have made this program what it is today. It is a success. And then I'm talking about diplomacy. I'm talking about, we all said a lot of things here, but what we didn't say is that the lawyers are very important. But we shouldn't forget, if you're in trouble, call your embassy. This is essentially why we're here. I recall vividly when I was serving in Ghana, I saved a man that was at the border being deported. Just a phone call. But then I was a much younger officer, not now that I'm a director. No diplomat is a small diplomat. We have some powers and we can help. A call to the ICE, to the police, that the embassy knows that they're holding you, now they'll be restrained to some extent. That's one. Then, along the line, we said that Nigerian government warned our citizens about traveling to United States. I want to be quoted here and now. Sometime last week, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Geoffrey Onyama, check your this day, talked about Nigerians traveling to United States. Let me read a little on the news in this day. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, on Tuesday called on Nigeria desirous of traveling to the United States of America for legitimate reasons to feel free to do so, as relations between Nigeria and the United States have not changed. Please, if you are legitimate Nigerian, if you have a valid visa, come to the United States. But you must be law-abiding. That's the same thing all of us are saying. Now, I'm talking from the perspective of diplomacy. I'll be fast. I have 10 minutes. Now, diplomacy, this is a profession that is involved in the formal and informal communication between and among friendly states. It could be bilateral, it could be multilateral. Evidence of ancient diplomatic practice can be traced to the Egyptian, Greeks, and the Roman empires through the use of envoys. If you're either a diplomatic agent or you're an envoy is a principal representative of a sending state in a receiving state. I'm sitting here as a Nigerian envoy from Nigeria, and I'm working in the United States. And these things are possible with two friendly nations. Importantly, when we are here to promote bilateral or multilateral relationship between two countries, which spans through a lot of things: economic, consular, trade, and a whole lot of things. Then why modern diplomatic practice can also be traced to medieval and modern Europe from 14th, 15th, and 16th century. In fact, in recent times, diplomacy has been conducted by ambassadors, consul generals, professional diplomats who function as resident agents of their respective sending states or governments in, of course, receiving states. There's also instances of, we have people who call honorary consuls. That's where my sister falls in. Honorary consul means a consul that is here representing another state. She may not have been a professional diplomat, but she also covered by all the diplomatic immunities. Yes, I'm sitting down here. There have been instances where police will stop me in error. I just show my ID card. Sorry, sir. But that does not make you to go and violate the law. Okay? Now, diplomacy is about, we have embassies, we have consul general, consulates, we have high commissions. I'll teach you a little about my profession today. A high commission and embassy basically the same nomenclature. It's a question of name. Countries that have high commissions like Nigeria are members of the Commonwealth. Like we have one, Malaysia, South Africa, all members of Commonwealth. When we have a mission, we call it a high commission. The ambassador said there is called a high commissioner. But under normal circumstances, a mission, a diplomatic mission goes. Then after a full mission, like in Nigeria, we have a full mission in Washington, we have a consulate in New York, we have a consulate here in Atlanta. That's why I'm here today. And the essence of having consulates is just a situation where we all know Nigerians are made in America. You can't have a diplomatic mission that will cover the whole 50 states of America. So you have to have a consulate mission to take care of the interest of your own country. So in Atlanta, the consulate is responsible for all Nigerians in 17 states within our jurisdiction. Like our consulate in New York also have countries they cover. Atlanta covers Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Puerto Rico, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, West Virginia, and that is it. This implication is that when we are covering these states, cuts across promoting trade, cuts across protecting the rights of our citizens. That's why I emphasize initially that not just lawyers. If you are arrested, try to call your embassy. And be surprised. Things may change along the line. Now the consular issues, now trying to tell you what some of our responsibilities are. Because I know of us don't know what actually we do. And to some extent, let me say, the practice of diplomacy is very expensive. Most of us are here because of the taxes our people pay. It is your right to demand that the embassy must help you. And we are here because of you. Some of us don't know that. So, the consulate issues and reissues Nigerian passports, issues visas, authentication of documents and statistics of Nigerians, deaths, marriages, adoptions, divorces, emergency travel certificates, and etc., etc. I may not go to start explaining all this because of time constraints. But if you leave here, even while I'm here, please feel free to ask me questions. I'll be very, very glad to answer questions. The consulate is also required by law to educate our citizens about any changes in immigration laws of the state or social security situations, any other development that may have direct or indirectly affected Nigerians. And of course, this is why we're here today. We wouldn't say, oh, because we're not planning it, it's by annual blah, blah, blah. No, we have to partner. It's about the interest of Nigerians, the welfare of Nigerians, and of course the protection of our country, because we don't have any other country. We are also mandated by law to assist our citizens in emergency situations. Like they said, if an asked person comes to your house, don't even show your face. If you're not expecting anybody, don't even tell them you're in there. Call your embassy. If you don't open your house, if they don't see you, they won't break into your house. So we're also mandated by law to assist our citizens. So call us on emergency situations. Evacuation of our nationals to safe places when there are natural disasters or emergencies that are unforeseen. These are part of our responsibilities. We know in most cases there's financial constraints, but make an attempt. We must do our own little bit within the constraints we're also going through. The consulate office also looks after the welfare of Nigerian nationals in detention prisons and ensure that the rule of law is enforced and fair trials are accorded all citizens irrespective of the severity of offense or crime. This is why occasionally we pay visits to prisons or correctional centers where there are Nigerians. It's part of our job. Routinely we go to visit our nationals in prisons and find out, have you gone to court? Do you have a lawyer? There has been instances we get involved to help our citizens. This is why we're here. And there's a new situation. In most cases, before the law enforcement agents deport a Nigerian here, in most cases they call us, especially if there's contention of nationality. If we don't consent to it, they will not do it. That is the standard rule. Like they said, maybe the situation may change because of the changing situation, but then it does not rewrite the law. It's just a question of time. Now, the consulate also issues entry visas to foreigners who intend to visit the country on tourism or business, and we inform them about immigration rules, residency and work permits processes in our country. This is some of the ways we use in promoting trade, investment into our country. Then recently, missions have commenced engaging in passport interventions to states within its jurisdiction to issue or renew passports of our citizens. And of course, interventions has to do with a situation where we live at the comfort of Atlanta and go to these 17 states, some of them, to directly help our citizens by giving them passports. This goes a long way to alleviate the suffering or the experience of having to travel from maybe Texas to Atlanta. We go to your doors to do it for you because this is part of the reason we are here and more. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I tried to rush it over, but like everybody said, I'm still here. If there's questions, I'm ready to take it. And importantly, always call the embassy if you're distressed, not just your lawyer. Thank you very much.
One more time for the Deputy Consul General. Yeah, that's your last one. Okay. All right. Just some housekeeping. Good job. Thank you. Some housekeeping issues. We have the cards. We have a few doctors helping us. Dr. Weke is taking this side. Dr. Winifred Weke, Dr. Busola George, Dr. Obani. We need another doctor this time. They're taking it, so please submit to them. We don't have time. And also, the food will be passed on very soon. It's, just to hold you up. We are doing everything to be on time. So I'm going to hand over to the Honorary Consul General of Liberia, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Cynthia Blandford.
Thank you very much, and I know the time is already well spent, but I do want to say again thank you to the organizers just for this outstanding opportunity to bring some clarity to the responsibilities and focus of the Liberian consulate to the community. My dear friend here is a permanent representative of the Foreign Service. As he mentioned, I'm an honorary consul, and I come to this post having spent 40 years in and out of Liberia as the first Rotarian exchange student. So my interest and my history, my love for the country goes back to the age of 17. So again, as I mentioned, in 2009, Her Excellency appointed me as the honorary consul, and I serve at her pleasure, and the people of the Republic of Liberia. I'm honored to serve in this post. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the role of the consulate in the area of the focus today, which is immigration reform, and specifically focus on some of the challenges that have come forward most recently to my office based upon the executive orders. As you know, Liberia and the United States have a long-standing history. Liberia was founded by freed slaves from America and other Africans in the country. It's the first republic of Liberia, free republic of Africa. Liberia was established in the early 1800s. Fast forward, of course, we know that there were 10 African-American presidents of Liberia. President Obama happens to be the 11th African-American president in the world, but there were 10 before him, and they were African-Americans. That history is not very well known in this country. The most important piece of, history that came about in 2013 was what we call the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue. It was a partnership agreement that, irrespective of which Republican or Democrat was in office, there would be a signing of an agreement called the Partnership Dialogue. So in 2013, Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, Alan Johnson Sirleaf signed this Partnership Dialogue with various focus, including agriculture, democracy, infrastructure, and now immigration. In December of 2016, I had the pleasure of going to Washington, D.C. with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and her delegation from Monrovia to really talk about a couple of key issues, specifically concerning Liberians in the area of deportation, the issues of temporary protective status, deferred enforcement departure, and Liberians who are here under the TPS, who are here under the Ebola platform. What we have been informed on, and this is the concern of my office, is that we are understanding from very high sources that while under the President Obama administration, we had extensions under TPS and DED for many years. However, we are not expecting those particular protective statuses to be further authorized by government. So what does that mean for the Liberian community? That means that we have thousands and thousands of people who post-war, post-Ebola are here in this country, who are going to be targeted for being detained and deported. And for that reason, we have some very expressed concerns. I had the opportunity to speak with the President briefly. I'm just coming back from Liberia last week regarding the Trump administration and the impact of the whole deportation, immigration reform on the Liberian community. Of course, the Liberian government is watching these things very, very closely. But on a more proactive side, and I believe this forum today and others to come, this is about writing our own agenda. We have this distinguished platform, our distinguished Consul General here to talk about what we can do in our own communities. So, for example, I know that the families that are coming into my office right now my office only issues travel visas to Liberia. We are not authorized to do birth certificates, death certificates. We're not allowed to do passports at this time, which is a real problem for Atlanta. With over 20,000 Liberians in Georgia, there are many now who are undocumented with expired passports. And the question is now, if you have an expired driver's license, you go to get your driver's license and you have an expired passport, they can arrest you, and they have been. We've been getting calls about people who are going in for expired documents, their driver's license, and they ask for the passport. If that passport is expired, you will be detained and possibly arrested. And these are the concerns that we have, because how do you get your children to school? As the attorneys have said, you have to have an emergency safety plan, because it's only going to be escalated. And we're seeing these things coming to our office almost every day now. We're getting phone calls of this type. We're also finding people who have taken these protective statuses, TPS, temporary protective status, and DED for granted. Many who have been here for over 20 years, for the distinguished panel here, the attorneys, and many of them don't have any documentation, not even an American passport. One young lady came to my office the other day in crutches. She said, I have 4 children, I've been here for over 20 years, I get welfare. She showed me a torn piece of paper that was a copy of her birth certificate. So I said, what is your history? What is your story? She said, well, my father's an African American, he just died. My mother's a Liberian, she's here. I said, but where are your papers? Where's your documentation? No green card. How are you living here in this country without some kind of paperwork? She said, well, I'm afraid now. Now that I understand this new administration is coming down on people who are undocumented, I'm now scared. What do I do? So she immediately sent me her documentation. I sent it off to the embassy in Washington, D.C. for intervention, so that she herself can have some cover in the event that she does get that knock at 3 o'clock in the morning. What is she going to do? She said, what about my children? I said, what about your children? It is your responsibility now to take this matter into your hands to protect your family, yourself, and your children. So the good news is that that particular family hopefully will be on a good course. But these are the kinds of undocumented families that are coming and being made aware of in my office. We're getting calls from senior care centers, from hospitals, everyday locations where people are saying, I've had this woman in my care for 10 years. Her benefits are expiring. Her documents are not in order. What should I do? So I've asked them to put these documents, these written documents, to me in writing and sending them on to the embassy in Washington, D.C., so that these issues can be managed, because it's just going to be escalated as time goes on. We are here to protect the interests of Liberians, the safety of Liberians, and we want to be proactive and not wait until you get that knock on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. We got word just before I went to Liberia that there was a raid in one of the Liberian communities. I wrote a letter to ICE here in Georgia. Nobody has responded. So those are the concerns that I have. If they're going in the cloak of night up to your door and they're raiding the communities, I have no way of knowing who these people are. Talk to the community. They don't know who the families are. People are afraid to even talk about it, because for fear that they too might have issues around being undocumented. So we expect that these things are going to happen, but let's make sure that, as these attorneys and the Consul General has said, make sure your papers are in order. So let's talk about some strategies. I know my time is already short. For me, what I would like to recommend to the Liberian community is that we need to lobby for a passport office in Georgia. With 20,000 Liberians and throughout the region, we can more than accommodate these passport matters here in Georgia. We've been talking about a mobile unit, Will, as you know, to the minister and to the ambassador. If nothing else, we need to have a mobile unit that can come into Atlanta, Georgia, sit with the community, get these documents accelerated so that people can get their paperwork done, as opposed to waiting for 30 to 45 to 60 days. Let's have a mobile unit here in Atlanta. In addition to that, we're also asking for the Minister of Foreign Affairs and her leadership team. I've written a letter already to the Minister of Foreign Affairs to have a town hall meeting here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm anticipating an answer so that we can get the facts out to the community. I'd also like to suggest a hotline, perhaps with the attorneys here, the Consul General. For those of you who are detained or who have issues of concern, we've come up with a hotline. We've done this in the past when DED and TPS were getting ready to expire. We had a bank of lawyers who were available. Perhaps that's something that we can consider is a 1-800 hotline to help families during these very difficult times. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, I'm one of 70 honorary consuls and consul generals here in the state of Georgia. There are more consul generals and honorary consuls in the state of Georgia than any other state outside of New York and Washington. So having said that, Consul General, there are 7 African countries. My recommendation, working with the consulate here, is that for Nigeria, Mali, Liberia, Senegal, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Uganda, should all come together with joint statements to the governor. We are peers to the governor here in this state. And we should have a public statement, a joint statement of all honorary consuls and consuls generals to the state of Georgia to let them know we are here, we are paying attention, we want our names and our contact information in every jail in this town, so that if there are concerned citizens who need to reach out, Consul General, to call us, they have our contact information as well. These are the kinds of strategies that we'd like to put forward as well. Some of the things that I don't have clarity on, and these are the things I'm concerned about in this room, is sanctuary cities, sanctuary homes, and offices. As an honorary consul, I am not clear if someone came to my home will who asked for protection. If my home is a sanctuary location, I've asked the minister to provide clarity to this. Is my office a sanctuary? These are the things I understand that as consulates, if you come to our home and our offices, we are a sanctuary institution. I think those things need to be clarified so that we are prepared in our offices and our homes to provide the kind of protection, relying on the lawyers to provide guidance and counsel moving forward. Those are very sensitive, delicate matters we need to know, because it's not a matter of if it happens, it's going to happen. We need to be prepared for that. On the other side, and as I wrap up my comments for today, one of the things for Liberia is that we are a post-war, post-Ebola economy. One of the challenges, I've just hosted 11 members of a delegation in Liberia to discuss issues around mental health, mass deportation, and our elections, which are coming up on 10/10, October the 10th. The issue for Liberia, being a post-war, post-Ebola country, should be of concern to all of us, because what happens in Nigeria, Liberia, Gabon, Gambia, what happens in each of these countries affects the entire region. The issue for deportation, mass deportation, happening in any one of these countries is a destabilization issue for the region. So the question is, Consul General, how are we managing this with our governments? My concern is with the elections in Liberia coming October 10th of this year. Right now, I know for a fact we are deporting criminals. As I mentioned, there are 3 tiers. Criminals are being deported on private planes right now, Liberian criminals. They are being deported in massive numbers because it was a requirement that these criminals have been in our jails here in America for a number of years, and now they have to, according to ICE regulations, they have to now be deported. But my question is, for those of us in this room, we want to ensure that we're having proactive conversations with our ministers of foreign affairs, our minister of health, our ministers of justice, because what we do in this country in terms of deportation and sending hundreds and thousands of people home is going to have a destabilizing effect in the countries that we love very much. So let's be diligent about this, as the Consul General has said. Let's be proactive. Let's come up with our own plan and strategy. I believe in this room today we have the minds and hearts to get it done. I know God has put this in our place, in our space, so that we can together as a community come up with the solutions that will be best for Africa and for Africans. Thank you very much.
One more time for Honorable Cynthia Blanford. That was good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we've got a lot of questions here, and we'll be very deliberate in going through them. Thank you for your questions. Thank you to all the speakers. One more time for all the speakers. And, let me add, as a practicing attorney, what I see as well in the community. There's a lot that's been said. What I have to add is about the immigrant community and voting. It's a lot. We don't really understand this, and we are used to tackling the issue after it becomes a problem. But when they say you have to be involved in voting, when they talk immigrants, all they look at is maybe the Hispanic community. And you take it, we take a lot of those things for granted. But guess what? That's how you can control, that's how you can get power in this society. One thing I can tell you for sure is that a lot of times, and all the immigration attorneys here can testify to this, that your congressman plays a big role, right? Yes. So what difference does it make when you have the cell phone of your congressman saying, I have this problem? Do you think they'll have the ear of the Homeland Security faster? What do you think you can do in your community? A lot of us don't vote. That's a problem. If you vote the president, don't complain about what the president is doing because you voted him in there. Or maybe you didn't vote. Or maybe you didn't galvanize enough people to vote. The other issue that is very big in our community is the issue of juries. Do you know how juries are picked? Juries are picked from what? The voting pool. From the people that vote. Do you know what that means? A lot of us live in communities. You say, oh, a lot of Nigerians live in Marietta, or a lot of Liberians live here, Ghanaians, or there's a lot of Africans in this neighborhood. Get into the courtroom on a criminal case, on a simple driver's license case or something, and it's all maybe, white people, right? Or maybe it's people that are not from your community. It does not matter. These are the voters in that constituency. If you are voting like you should be voting, there's no reason why you should not be represented in that jury pool. It's somebody that is sitting on that jury pool that can speak on your behalf. So we have to vote. We have to get involved in elections and stuff like that. Because as we're having this could as well be a platform where, somebody wants to talk to the community. The voters will ask, what are you going to do for us? That's how it works. Nobody's going to speak for you if you don't start speaking for yourself. So that's just my little nugget. And with that, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to go into the questions. There's over 20 questions here. So I don't know, the panelists, do we have another mic, please? Can we get another mic? Because the one I have here kind of intersects with this one, so I don't want the noise. So, okay, so this is the last. There's a lot of questions, believe me. The one you have might actually be answered here, and the attorneys and the consul generals, however you want to do it, it's up to you, okay? So I'm going to ask, and then you have the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. The first question is, if you had a DUI in 1988 and you're a permanent resident, how does it affect filing for citizenship?
The question was, if you have an 88 DUI offense, how does it affect citizenship? And you're an LPR. Because the crime is an old crime, typically, it shouldn't have any impact, not a single DUI. What impacts naturalization would be 3 DUIs. Those get you deported, and those make you lack good moral character. A single DUI does not impact naturalization. What I would encourage you to do is to get your FBI rap sheet and make sure there's nothing else. People tend to forget other crimes that are in there that could potentially be in their criminal history. So get your fingerprints taken, get your rap sheet from the FBI. That way you can assess if there's some other offenses that you may have forgotten. But one single DUI does not cause you to lack good moral character. It's 3.
Well, he said, how do you get your rap sheet?
Prior to Trump administration, you could go into any local police. Well, you can still go, but I don't encourage people to go to local police. I mean, believe it or not, I had a client to tell me that someone in the community said it was safe for them to go to the sheriff's office and get their prints taken. I don't encourage that at all. In Atlanta, there's Bridging the Gap. It's over by the CIS office on Park Lake. They will happily fingerprint you, give you your fingerprint cards. If you want to use the services of an attorney, that attorney can mail those off to the FBI. or you can go on FBI.gov and there are instructions on what to do with your fingerprint cards, and a rap sheet will be mailed directly to your attorney or to you. And it would outline any criminal offenses that you've had if you were ever fingerprinted.
Thank you very much, Attorney Rhodes. The next question is, can we still travel with dual passports, as we have done previously?
Generally, the answer would be yes. However, what country? What is the other passport? Is one U.S. citizen, and is the other British? Is one from Mali, and then the other one is European? So it would depend on the other citizenship, and I just can't just make a blanket statement and say generally. And I said Mali, I do want to say something that even with working with the embassies, if you are from Mali, Mali is considered a safe haven terrorist country, and even with the embassies, if you want to have any type of alliance, at this point I really wouldn't recommend with Mali, because they are considered a safe haven country, and that's for terrorists. So they were not on the list, but you know, we don't know what will happen eventually.
Thank you. You can keep that one. I have another one here. Thank you, Attorney Jafoja. The next question is, if you're stopped and questioned and you do decide to be silent, would that not constitute uncooperation with the police?
The answer is no.
Why is that?
You have the right to
Remain silent.
remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. And having said that, please permit me to, because I'll be amiss if I fail to recognize my dean, the man who brought the consulate to Atlanta, Professor Esogwe. He's in the house. I must recognize his presence. He's the man that was instrumental in bringing back the consulate. And also honored to have the first former national president of NAIDO in the house, who was also the former Igbo Union president. And now the chairman, what you were speaking, you were preaching about us getting involved politically. One of us is now the chairman of the Democratic Party in Gwinnett County. The Chief Bebukoye.
Where's Chief? Oh, right there.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very good answer on that one. You all heard it. The right to remain what? Silent. Okay? So you're still innocent until proven what? Right. Okay. So the next question, the Consul General, please, this might actually be within your, if I can find this on a note card. Don't worry, I'll get back to this one because, okay, I have it. Okay, this is a two-part question for the attorneys and also for the consul generals. Okay, one of the options for legal stay in the U.S. is E2 investment visa, different from EB5, which requires $500,000 to $1 million. What is required for Nigeria to be qualified for E2 visa? Is it reciprocal? What is the pathway? What should be done if someone is picked? Okay, no, this is, I'll address this one next. And, okay, so still on the E2 visa, why has the Nigerian government not reciprocated the E2 investment treaty that allows business people to stay in the U.S. with a 2-year renewable visa, unlimited, especially now that EB5 investment fund is being increased above $1 million. And the person that brought this question actually stated that Liberia does it now and is asking why Nigeria doesn't do it. So I'll let the attorneys answer the first part, and I'll let the deputy consul answer the one about Nigeria. You want me to repeat it?
Is the first part dealing with the E2 as opposed to EB5?
Yes, it says one of the options for the legal stay in the U.S. is E2 investment visa, different from EB5, which requires half $1 million to $1 million. So,
Okay, for and let me just explain. For E2 visas, as long as, and this is my appreciation, as long as the country is a treaty country with the U.S., you should be eligible to apply for E2 status, but you have to show it's a viable business entity. You have to show that you have to be able to show the trace of funds, because they want to know that the funds you didn't fund your organization, your enterprise through a terrorist organization. So that probably is a question that needs to be directed specifically with an immigration attorney to go through exactly how you entered, what's your investment. Is it a lawful enterprise? Is it an investment that you're entered into with somebody that funded it through a terrorist organization? There's some other questions as to why you can't get an E2 other than just the government denied your E2. There may be some specifics as to the investment, the source of funds, the legitimacy of the investment. That would require additional questions with the E2 applicant. But if it is a recognized treaty country with the U.S., you have a lawful entry, you should be able to invest under the E2 program and be able to maintain status and renew it every, I think it's 2 or 3 years.
thank you. Thank you, Attorney Rose.
Just to add a little bit on this particular one he just talked about. Many Nigerians who have applied the E2 or E5 visas have talked about it and never followed through. That's the Japanese, the Chinese, the Indians have been taking advantage of it. Many of our lawyers who are interested in pursuing this application processes, what we end up getting is just inquiries and no follow-up. 90% of the time when you tell them the cost implications, the processes, they back up. So that's the experiences that we have had in many people that are intending to take the E2 or E5 application process.
I also want to make a comment that if you are interested in an EB5 or, like you said, we talked about the E2, which we know is not applicable in this case, there's something called extraordinary ability or exceptional ability, which would be an EB1, EB2. And if you are Nigerians, you can self-petition. You don't even need a petitioner for this. And all you need, well, not all. It will have to be on an individual case-by-case basis. But if you do have a master's degree, you may be eligible. I'm not going to go into the details at this point, but just know that there is something called an EB1 or EB2, exceptional or extraordinary ability, that will run you about $50,000, $60,000, and you'll be able to get a green card for you and your family. So that is an option I'll throw out there for you.
Thank you, attorneys. Now, specifically to the Nigerian Deputy Consul.
Sorry, I think I'm going to remember almost clear the air. The law is clear on every situation. The E2 investment visa, there's a process. Like you said, from experience as a practitioner, most of our citizens will come, they ask questions, they don't follow it through. I'm sure if you go through the process, why not? You came to the policy and that is it. So I don't think the government has no restrictions or inhibitions on both sides. It's just for us to look at what the law requires and go through it. And I'm sure we will get that at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, Consul General. I guess you can tell where the question came from. He's saying specifically that Nigeria is not doing it right now, but that Liberia is. Why? And is there, a plan for Nigeria to do it?
Nigeria is not a part of the treaty.
Okay. So you've heard it. No, there's...
Why they didn't give it to us? He said the Nigerian government has failed to reciprocate.
Thank you.
That is something that these countries, the E2 treaty, is a treaty that you have to sign with the U.S. government. And US government would require that country also to reciprocate. Nigeria has refused to reciprocate. That's why we're not part of the peace treaty. And instead of this way, the Indians and the Chinese are going to this country and cannot be allowed. Thank you.
Only. What he just said. Can I just say?
Okay, wait.
What he just said is correct.
Dr. Totes, I've noted what you said. I don't want to say what I'm not sure of because of the nature of this public domain. I'll go back and investigate it and at appropriate place, I'll come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a fair answer. So he doesn't want to give us the wrong direction on it, but Dr. Tooks, your point is very valid and it has been noted, and there's no disputing what you say. That's why I asked it specifically. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, we'll move forward. The other part of the question was, what should be done if someone is picked up to get relief and a temporary injunction to stop deportation? After that time. You want me to read it again? Okay. That's the question. What should be done if someone is picked up to get relief and a temporary injunction to stop deportation?
If you're picked up by the local police, let me just go through the process. You're picked up by the local police. ICE typically has a detainer. So within 3 days of being picked up by the local police, if ICE doesn't come and get you from the local detention, then you must be released. And that comes with paying bond to the local authorities. You pay your bond. ICE would still have the detainer. They're going to come and get you and place you into immigration proceedings. What starts that process is a document. It's a charging document called a notice to appear. So you're going to get a document saying why immigration has placed you in removal proceedings, and on that document sometimes it gives you a court date to go before whatever jurisdiction immigration court you're in. So let's limit our scope to Atlanta because we're in Atlanta. You're stopped in Fulton County, you're turned over to ICE. Now you're issued a document, a notice to appear, giving you a date to appear before the immigration court. When you appear for the first time at immigration court, some people choose not to go with an attorney for whatever reasons, finances or whatever. The judges typically gives the foreign national an opportunity to obtain an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, there's a list of services, there's a list of attorneys that the judge will provide you to find an attorney at low cost, no cost. But you will be given a date to return to court with an attorney, and at that court date, you will have to plead to those charges. You're going to have to inform the judge through your attorney, if you come with an attorney, how you plead to the charges. Typically, charges are you're not a native or citizen of the U.S., you're a native and citizen of whatever country you're born. Typically, what I've seen a lot is you overstayed a visa, you entered on a certain date. Now we're deporting you because you have remained in the U.S. without authorization. That's one of the simpler cases. What gets you, I guess to answer the question, your deportation stayed is filing some form of relief. And under immigration law, relief is pretty finite. You can file for asylum or withholding of removal, depending on when you enter the U.S. Asylum may be available. Sometimes, a lot of times it's not. You're barred if you don't file your asylum claim within a year of entry. You can also seek relief from deportation if you've been in the U.S. for more than 10 years. You have what's called a qualifying relative, U.S. citizen spouse, U.S. citizen children, lawful permanent resident, spouse or children. You can file for what's called cancellation of removal, and that allows you to make application through CIS. You file that application with the court, and then you proceed through your deportation proceeding with the understanding that you're seeking relief of this cancellation waiver. And basically what that does is it's forgiving the time that you've been in overstay, or it forgives the time that you entered illegally based on the fact that you have a qualifying relative. That form of relief is limited in that there are only 50,000 of those visas available a year. And I'm not sure under this administration, I don't think that's been addressed yet, if they're going to reduce the number. But those visas go quickly. If you are lucky enough to be granted that form of relief by an immigration judge, you can then proceed with obtaining your green card. You walk out of court with the ability to now say you are a lawful permanent resident. You have to go back to CIS, they stamp your passport, and now you have the ability to remain in the U.S. as a lawful permanent resident. That's one form of relief. So you have asylum, you have withholding, you have cancellation of removal. If you're from a country that's a TPS country, temporary protected status country, you're allowed to have your case terminated, provided your offense was not an aggravated felony or a deportable offense. So asylum, withholding, TPS, cancellation, well, if you are married to a U.S. citizen spouse and that spouse has not yet started the process, you can seek a continuance from the court, but you got to act quickly because now you have to have a spouse petition for you, and that process is a lengthy process. The judges in Atlanta, depending on who you get, sometimes they are amenable to continuances and sometimes they're not. So just because you have a petition pending based on marriage to a U.S. citizen spouse may not get your case continued, it may not get your case terminated, and you could still be facing deportation. Judges in Atlanta want to see what relief do you have today that keeps you from being deported. The fact that you have a U.S. citizen spouse, but that spouse never petitioned for you, or the fact that you have U.S. citizen adult children, and those children never started a process, is not relief today when you go to court. And that's the difficulty of navigating immigration court in Atlanta. These judges want to know, what relief are you presenting to me today for which I can give you an order granting you that relief? They're not going to deal into what's in the future. That's why it's important, if you're married to a U.S. citizen spouse, start the process now. Or if you have adult siblings that want to start the process now, because it's too late once you get in deportation proceedings, because the adjustment process, the application processes with CIS now take about 9 months.
This place to add a few words to what she just said. One, you get a call from your brother outside that your blue has been picked up. What do you do? Before, immigration on their own, ICE used to recommend bond. They may recommend $7,000 bond, $10,000 bond, or no bond. Now, the prevailing circumstance with them is no bond. They say no bond. They're not recommending any bond anymore. Why? Well, it's Trump administration. You go there every day. Well, Trump says don't do it. Don't give them. Let the judge do it. So before, you could just wait and find 1 or 2 days. Immigration will set a bond. You have your $10,000. You go buy money order and pay. Not anymore. Please get the lawyer. As soon as somebody's picked up, get a lawyer. Because the lawyer can call your deportation officer quickly, find out that they're not recommending any bond. Boom, file a motion for bond hearing. Before, bond hearings used to be held within 3 days, you file it. But now, not anymore. It could be a week, could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks. Things are rapidly changing. So to answer that question, if you're picked up, what do you do? Please get a lawyer.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, attorneys. You've answered a lot of questions with the answers, but please can we keep it just brief, 30 seconds, 1 minute, because I have a whole lot. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And also, for you sitting out there, please let me speak on behalf of the attorneys. Disclaimer, this is not legal advice, okay? If you want the real one, come to the office. They have cards, there's cards here, a lot of them, okay? So each case is unique. So don't think that the answer you get, hey, I have answer to my, don't say they said, okay? But this is just general questions, not pertaining to your individual situation. I just have to make that clear. So the next question, I am a green card holder and a Nigerian. How many months do I have the right to stay outside the U.S.? 30 seconds.
Say stay outside of the United States of America. You're supposed to be residing here, so home should be here. However, once you stay out for more than 180 days, then that's suspicious. I tell my clients, especially Africans, 5 months. I don't say 180 days because I know we're last minute people. You'll be coming in on 181 days, and the way you calculate it, depending whether February is there, 28 days or 29, depending on the year. But I just say there's no reason for you to be out consecutively for 5 months or more. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney. Now, the next one is I want to know whether a green card holder.
Let me add to that.
Sorry.
There is, now this is, now I have to say what I need to say because we're in a, we're at home, right? Are we at home?
Yeah. We're on social media.
Okay. Now, if you happen to stay, if you have a green card, you have stayed more than 1 year in Nigeria or whatever. One, can you come back in with your green card? The question is, no, you have to go back and file a re-entry permit to the embassy and kekeri, this and that. Most times if you go file re-entry permit, it may be denied because you've abandoned your green card. But since we're at home, what I should say is, buy your ticket, enter the plane, and come back. When you get to the airport, most times, 90% of the time, they will not know. But if they know, they will still let you in and have you go through a process where you refile your application. So if you have a family member who has overstayed at home, and the green card in your mind or in his mind has been cancelled because of the overstay, and we want to apply for a re-entry permit at the embassy, I can guarantee you'll be denied. Just buy your ticket with the green card. The airline doesn't know the difference. When you buy your ticket, show them your green card, enter the plane, and get your account. When you get here, they will let you in most times. But if they don't, they will ask you to go see the judge, which means they must let you in, but you come see the judge, you reapply, and you're in order. So that's how to overcome some of those issues, instead of going through the rudiments of doing it.
Thank you.
Don't say I told you.
Yeah, like I said, this is not legal advice. I had to give that disclaimer. You are recording it, right? Okay. So I want to know whether, this is the next question, by the way. I want to know whether a green card holder can have a right